Hello everybody, it's Clooney here, back at it again with a little bit of a different thing today. Today we're going to be doing a review of a game. I did not expect to be doing this review, however, opportunities have arisen and I can actually review this game for once, and review a game at a decent time. Granted, I'm a little bit late because the contents of this game are really dense, and honestly I needed to give myself proper time to actually play it to make a good review. So here we are, talking about Fire Emblem Three Houses. So before I get into this review, I just want to say I've never played a Fire Emblem game before. That being said, I have played turn-based tactical games before. This would include Endless Legend, Civ is another one. The big one that I can think of though is Final Fantasy Tactics. I played a lot of that as a kid growing up and I really liked it. Overall, I am a pretty decent fan of the genre of turn-based strategy. It's just I never really get a chance to do it or play it. So when I do get the chance, it's kind of a treat. And Fire Emblem Three Houses is no exception. So this game touts itself as being this big turn-based strategy game where you basically have all these different characters that you have and you basically level them up and get them to choose their classes and whatnot, and then you go in and you do missions. That's the main feedback loop of the game. And it's really fun. It's really, it's just plain old simple tactical RPG fun. But it's got a lot more to it. See, it's not just going from mission to mission playing that. You also have this other side part of the game, which is the monastery, which is where you're going to be spending, possibly more of your time in the game, because you basically have this monastery that you go around and you run around and you talk to the students, because you're in essentially Hogwarts for training kids with deadly weapons. That's basically the game, is you're doing Hogwarts for royalty and they're all training how to use deadly weapons, of course. And it's funny. It's just a fun way to sort of tie in the sort of why you're getting so close to your units and why you're talking to your units, and just, it's a good way of interfacing. And I really like it because it's nice to sort of have this side game as well to sort of distract you from the really stressful story. You're going to take a moment, digest what you want out of the story, and then just sit and have nice relaxing things, do things that will get your students bonuses that will eventually feed back into their leveling up overall, because they will level up over time. Their skills will level up rather than their actual levels, because they have two different sets of experience, which is their actual professionary experience, I think it is, and then they have their actual leveling experience. This is why I have certain characters that are god tier at sniping. Bernadetta comes to mind, and she's literally only leveling up archery, so whenever I talk to her and actually have to do special because you get to pick which students you can tutor, and of course I'm going to tutor Bernadetta because she's awesome. She's a freaking hilarious character. But you get characters and you tutor them, and then you level up their proficiencies, and over time what winds up happening is your characters wind up doing really good at their proficiencies, but they're really they could probably be Bernadetta can be a master class at this point. She literally can be her end game class if she wanted to. The only problem is she's not high enough level, and that happens to be that's actually kind of an issue, is power creep comes into play, which I'll talk about that later. But the main thing that you need to know is most of the stuff that happens and that affects your main game is in the monastery, and you can just auto teach people in the classes and whatnot. You don't have to do all the class stuff and all the micromanaging. You don't have to do that. You can just skip all that and go into the thing. The only thing that you really have to do is in the monastery there will usually be a monthly hey, this is just a thing that is here to sort of teach you like, it's like tutorial quests almost, and you have to do those tutorial quests for the monastery, and they're really short and really easy. They give you nice little markers to tell you where to go. It's not that hard, and it's not that bad, and it really helps out a lot because it sort of teaches you how to do things better. And trust me, the tutorials, you're going to want to listen to them because there are a lot of things in this game to manage. That being said, you don't have to manage them either. You can straight up ignore it if you want to just get through the mission parts of the game and just play that. And that's totally a valid way to play. But it's going to make your game harder, but the game is really easy, honestly. I know the footage that I'm probably going to show you for combat is probably going to be me getting my ass beaten in, but that's because I'm bad at these games. I'm really bad at these games. But I don't know. The other thing about this game is that all your units have personalities attached to them, and you wind up liking a lot of the characters that you wind up getting involved with. A good example is I actually really like I like almost all of my like main house, but then I also like the other houses kids too. They're freaking dumb fun too. They're really hilarious when I get the chance to talk to them. And it makes me want to replay the game and start on a different route just to see what's different. And you can, of course, recruit kids from other houses. You can do that. It's hard as shit, and I haven't figured out how to do it, but I know that it is a possibility. I'm 11 hours in, by the way, just so to give a time reference to see, for people to understand, hey, I've played a decent amount of this game. I've played like 10% of this game, okay? I have played a very small amount of this game because this game should be about 80 hours a campaign if you play it in a certain way. So like each route has 80 hours and each route is different story-wise, so you want to play each route. It leads into this thing of like every route is different, so you want to play every route. Overall, this game, depending on how you play it, could easily track up over 200 hours if you play it in a specific way. But that being said, let's talk about the combat real quick. So the combat, I love it. It's amazing. It's got like it's just fun. It's just fun combat wise. And I like how they show you which unit is going to be focused depending on where you place your units, because that really helps in determining who's going to die, because you don't want anyone to die. But if you play in classic mode, you can have your units die off, it makes you actually give a shit about where you're putting your units. You know what I mean? It's not like a thing of like, oh, well, if I send this guy in, he can do a kamikaze move, and then it turns into a game of like, okay, well, how many kamikaze moves can I get away with in a playthrough? No, you don't do that. If you do that, your character's dead, and they're dead for good. And you can turn that off and make it so that that's not the case. But that's not really fun, and that kind of sucks the Fire Emblemness out of it, because I've heard that that's the thing that's been in Fire Emblem games for a long time. So I think that in order to play it, to appreciate the game, you really have to do that and leave that on. That being said, it's awesome to see that death matters in this game. A unit dying is a big fucking deal, and that's great. Another thing that I want to just praise about the game in general is that it's complex, and it's complex in a lot of ways that I wouldn't normally expect it to be. There's just a lot of micromanaging, and I expected micromanaging, but I didn't expect it on this level. Like down to the level of like, there's just so much stuff that you can do to improve your units. And I know that during my first time through, it's going to be like, wow, my units are not as good as I would expect them to be. And then the second time through, I'll be like, oh, I know all these things now. And then you improve that like whole micromanaging, and then your units are kick ass at the end of the game. And it's like, whoa, that's awesome. And that's really fun. I think that's really good. It provides a nice satisfying feedback loop that most games don't have nowadays. And it's just, it's good. It's just fucking good. It's so good. It's so good. What else? So there's actually a couple things that I wanted to sort of, you know, to give the game a fair run through with if it's good or bad. There's a couple things that I do want to say are cons and that could turn people off from the game. First off, the game is very slow, and that's not a negative thing, but there's certain aspects of it that drag. Again, I'm roughly into 10 or 11 hours into my game as of this recording, and I feel like I haven't made as much progress in certain areas, like story-wise, but I made a ton of progress in terms of like my character's level, and it makes me wonder how high level they can get actually, because the level cap is not really determined or set. I just know that characters can hit level like 15, and then that's when they hit their master classes, and some of my characters are almost at their master classes at this point, and that's kind of a little bit concerning, because it's like, oh no, what do I do? I feel like I'm over leveling certain characters a lot, but then I have one character, again, people are gonna shit on me for this, but I have one character who's still their starting class, and I just can't for the life of me level them up, because in order for them to level up, they have to be in combat. They have to actually attack and fight and heal and stuff. But this character literally doesn't get a chance to fight because all my other characters run forward and just can kick ass. And it's getting really bad because like I have one character, Edelgard. Edelgard is a heavy knight in my control, and she just beats everyone's ass in and just destroys everyone, and it's awesome. It's great. But she's so high level, I have to actively hold her back and put my whole army at a more disadvantageous position just so that my other characters can get combat experience. And it's really weird. It's a really weird back and forth that I have to manage. And I just don't... it's frustrating. It's really, really frustrating because there's no way to actually... there's no way to do that outside of actual combat. There's no way to fix that. And I think the way that they could fix that is maybe providing like combat training in the monastery. And that might be in the game. I don't know if that's in the game or not. But there's got to be a way to level up characters outside of the combat missions. That's the only way I can think of that this would make sense and all that garbage. So yeah. With that being said though, there's that. Of course, with this game, there's also the relationship aspect, which you form these relationships with your students. You can actually have romance options, which is very good, and I like that. I think it's fun because it gives a nice little dynamic, and it's like, oh man, fucking, I don't know, I like romance options. Throw romance options into any game, I'm sure it turns it way better, makes it really fun. But, the thing that gets me about that is that the romance options are really limited, I feel like, in this game. Not saying that they're piss poor, they're not. But it's just that the romance options are actually sort of limiting in terms of LGBT stuff, because I play as a girl. I always play as a girl, and whenever I get the choice, because it's just, I like to. It's always been the thing, because, I don't know, girls usually have the better aesthetic overall compared to the guys, and Fire Emblem is no exception. So I'm playing a girl, of course, and what winds up happening in this case is, oh boy, all the characters that I wanted to try and push for their romance options were not available. They're only available for guys. There's only one female romance option, or like one gay romance option. That's like really weird. And it's not a bad thing. I actually kind of give them credit where credit is due. It is kind of a little bit of a thing where it's like, oh man, like characters, like it's everyone's forcing these LGBT options everywhere they can, and restricting them is like kind of like seen as like, why would you do that? Like, why do that at all? But I see it as a little bit more realistic, in all honesty. I see that as more realistic and it's understandable, you know? And so I'm not upset, I'm just more confused. Because it's just a thing that is, it's a weird thing to sort of talk about and discuss. On top of that, all the cons that I've said so far probably aren't really big deals, but the biggest issue I would say that the game has is dying can cause you to lose a lot of time, and that's like a big deal. And granted, like, you have essentially 3 lives for each level. You can restart the level whenever you want. You can turn back time, and like say a character dies, you can turn back a couple turns, or you can turn back the entire match or something. You know, you have options there to sort of change the way that it turns out. You have options to undo fuck-ups, and that's great. But then you have another aspect of the game that is kind of bad, but I don't know how to describe it, which is the whole aspect of the game's presentation is not the best by any means. It is actually pretty bad in some areas. Like, character models sometimes just look like they're not good. That's all I can really say, is that they just don't look very good. The backgrounds don't always look the best, and it sometimes comes out looking like it's a 3DS game that got upscaled, which is a thing that's been levied against a lot of 3DS, or not 3DS games, Switch games, like Pokemon Sun and Moon, not Sun and Moon, fucking Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee. That's another one that really gets hit with that thing. But like, this game really does look fucking terrible at some points, and then there's also like, the game loads weird. I've noticed like certain things load weird. Like, there'll be times where you're like walking through the monastery and doors will just stay shut because it's loading the other area because you ran up to it. So it's like, oh shit, I don't want to go to there. Loading the area now, and it just goes and sits there and loads, and you can't walk past it. And it's just weirdly janky sometimes. Like, it's just weird. And it's fine as long as you're not like running through the monastery like through doors and certain things. It doesn't really proc that often, but like, the big thing I noticed is like when I first start the game up and I go into the monastery and start doing shit, the game freaks the fuck out sometimes and doesn't want to open the monastery door for like 30 seconds, and I'm like, what the hell? And then it opens. It's like, oh, okay, just needed to load in the entire area, I guess. So yeah, those are the main issues, but that's beside the point. The game is really well written. It has a great story so far. It's really fun and enjoyable, and it has fully voice acted cutscenes and fully voice acted just like dialogue, which is crazy. They did not need to do that. I think it's all fully voice acted. I don't think there's anything that's not voice acted. I think every single thing is voice acted, which is crazy to me. A game with this much dialogue and this much like content in it is like voice acted to such a degree that it's like, holy crap, wow. All the like little like interactions between 2 different characters, yeah, they're all fucking, they all have voice acting. The only thing that doesn't have voice acting is your character, which is fine. I don't mind the silent protagonist, and I think that's really, really good. So yeah, if you're on the fence of wanting to buy this game but you're too intimidated by it, I would say just get it. It's not it's not hard to play. It's a little intimidating at first because of all the new things, but as you go through the game's motions, it will introduce you to concepts that you don't even have to actually follow through and deal with and, you know, handle. Like, you don't have to commit to doing these things. You don't have to commit to doing classes with characters and whatnot. That's not a thing that you're forced to do. So with that being said, it's really simple if you make it simple. If you try and take on everything at once, you're gonna get overwhelmed. But if you try and take it on, at a nice slow pace, ease yourself into it, then by all means, you'll have a great game and you'll have a lot of fun. And in fact, the game will probably last you longer than most people, because the game has a 40-hour playtime or a 80-hour playtime, depending on how much you actually do things. I'm sure that people that play this game like really hardcore probably have gotten everything down to a T, to where it's like they shave off hours of playtime. But I think that's the fun of it, is just going through the game, experiencing it, experiencing the story, and just seeing what happens. So if you want to play this game, by all means, get it. I rate it like a 8 out of 10, honestly, because it's so good. But it's definitely a you should try it at the very least. It's definitely a, if you don't rent it, just buy it. Like, and I'm sure you won't be disappointed. If you are looking to purchase the game, there are links down below that I am providing for you to purchase the game. They help support this channel, and they help support me as a content creator, so by all means, those links are down in the description for people to use. There are also links to my Twitter, my Discord, and my, I think that's it. I'm pretty sure it's just my Twitter, my Discord, maybe my Patreon too. That might be down there as well. I don't know. But be sure to check all those links out down below, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.